You will save more money the moment you hear what I'm about to say. I've helped millions of people with their finances over the years, and one thing that became clear was how few realized why saving money was so hard for them. Today, I'm going to share what's going on in my 5-step savings framework. Many people believe that we all make decisions rationally, that we're always in control. But studies show that it's actually emotions that determine what we do and buy, and then we justify our emotional spending with logical reasoning. And I know this sounds very wishy-washy, but just bear with me. We spend a lot of time talking about how our experiences, our traumas, and emotions affect our relationships in life, but we barely talk about how it affects our spending habits. Emotional spending happens anytime you buy something because you feel some type of way. When you're sad, when you're anxious, or even when you're happy. If you ever bought a cheeseburger after a stressful day at work, or a random gadget on Amazon when you're bored, then you give it into emotional spending. The problem is, it usually results in buying things that you didn't really need. And when it happens very frequently, you might start sacrificing your own financial goals. But to be clear, emotional spending isn't inherently bad. If you need a pint of Rocky Road ice cream after a long week, or an iced matcha latte when you're feeling down, all the power to you. I believe like 90% of goals, like going on a diet, fail because the more you hear you cannot eat pineapple pizza, the more you're gonna want pineapple pizza. And when it comes to getting better with your finances and money, deprivation doesn't work. So instead of telling you to stop spending the money you work super hard for, I'm gonna tell you to spend the money, but only if you follow this 5-step saving framework that's helped me for years. Step 1, in the book Take the Stairs by Rory Vaden, he says whenever buffalo see a storm coming, they start charging towards it because they know they can get it over with quicker by going straight through. People, on the other hand, whenever we see a storm coming, will try to run away and avoid it. But the truth is, we can't. The storm will always be around, just getting closer. It's impossible to stop emotional spending if you don't know what's triggering it. So I went through a phase at work where I would always buy something unnecessary during lunch. Sometimes it was Taro bubble tea with 50% sugar, other times a double chocolate Levain cookie, and I never realized why, because I was trying to save money and I didn't even want these things that badly. It was just like an impulse, right? I just thought, I worked hard, so I deserve this. But when I really reflected about it, when I really thought about it, I realized that I was doing this because I was constantly stressed and overworked at my job. Since I could rarely control what happened at work, me choosing to buy that bubble tea or cookie or whatever gave me back a sense of control and a hit of dopamine. So if you notice that you tend to mindlessly buy things whenever you feel bored, overwhelmed, or lonely, try to understand why. Does buying something make you happier, give you more clarity, more control? And once you find that trigger, immediately move to step 2. Next, no matter how hard you fight it, even if you're aware of it, you are going to experience spending triggers again and again. It's natural, you're only human. Step 2 isn't about completely avoiding and ignoring these triggers, but rather about building a better response to them so you stop emotionally overspending when it happens. After I realized that my natural response was to buy things to regain a sense of control, I knew I had to change it since it wasn't sustainable financially. So I started telling my boss that I wanted to get staffed on a different project, one that wasn't absolutely miserable. At the same time, whenever I felt like I was losing control or I needed to pick me up, instead of buying something to get that hit of dopamine, I just kept a bunch of those little nerd candy boxes at my desk and ate some to trigger that dopamine hit instead. Create an action plan so you can distract yourself with a diversionary activity the next time the trigger occurs. Eating some nerd's candy might not work for you, but maybe drinking a warm cup of tea will, or taking a walk outside, or gossiping with coworkers. It's gonna take some trial and error to figure this out. Step 3, and this is a big step that helped me the most. But first, I've come to realize that when you grow up without money, you tend to build a lot of financial baggage and trauma that negatively impacts you later in life. What I think is really helpful is therapy, which can give you the strategies to work through this. That's why I'm excited to talk about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and accessible. Finding a therapist can be tough, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote. And by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to professional therapists in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched. Check out the link below, it's betterhelp.com/VincentChan. Clicking that link supports the channel, but more importantly, gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost, without stressing about insurance or who's in your network. If you ever went through or are going through a hard time, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/VincentChan. Thanks again to BetterHelp for supporting this video. So step 3, one of the biggest things that helps me a lot is when I put my money where I can't touch it. Most people get their paychecks deposited into their checking accounts. The problem is you're more likely to spend your paycheck because you can see that it's there. So if you find yourself not having the best discipline or self-control, the trick is to apply a forced saving automation so you can save more money and spend less without even trying. Like if Mr. Magic Lamp magically took $150 from your paycheck every time, it would probably hurt. But after some time, you'd get used to it. Like when I worked in finance, I made about $120K a year. And then when I quit and went into entrepreneurship, I made about $60K. Although I made a lot less money than before, I made it work. I ate out less, went on fewer trips, and became more conscious with my spending. Basically, if you can set aside some of your money before you can even see it, it's gonna be a lot easier to save. You can do this by setting up a forced saving automation by going into your bank account and setting it so that every time you get paid, you automatically transfer some of that money into a different account, like a high yield savings account, where you can earn a return on your money. Most high yield savings accounts these days offer between 4 to 5% per year. And the great thing about keeping your savings in these accounts is that your money will start to earn money for you while you're automatically saving it. For instance, if you manage to save $6,000 and you keep it in a high yield savings account, that $6,000 will earn you an extra $306 in a year just for sitting in there. If you're looking to open a high yield savings account, I'll link some of my favorite FDIC insured ones in the description where you can earn 4 to 5% on your money. Next, you're not gonna hear a lot of people say this, but I think it needs to be said. It's okay to emotionally spend once in a while. Like many things, building a healthy relationship with money is about finding the balance between enjoying a treat occasionally and spending more than we can afford. The problem arises when we act on our emotions all the time, and then we'll just end up sacrificing our financial goals. So this is what I start to do. Every month, I'll just dedicate a small amount of money as fun money. It could be $20 or $30. You can pick a monthly amount that you can afford to spend, and then you would just stick to that amount every month. So because it's a dedicated allowance, it's easier for me to spend on things like matcha lattes without worrying about overspending thanks to 2 things. First, it reminds you that it's fine to occasionally buy something based on emotion, but you will have to make a more conscious decision to do so. Second, because I'm using the money exactly as intended, I don't have to worry or feel guilty about buying something that isn't completely necessary. And if you want to use something that's completely free to track your fund money or your savings goal, I'll link my free tracker down below. But what helped me the most to save more money is mentally asking myself 3 questions before I buy anything. Question 1, how many pineapple pizzas does it cost? When I was just getting into personal finance, I came up with a rule to reframe money to make it more approachable. So whenever I buy something that isn't pineapple pizza, I would just think to myself, how many pineapple pizzas is this thing worth? How many pineapple pizzas could I buy with this money? For example, if this watch costs $70 and I know a small pineapple pizza costs $7, then this watch costs 10 pineapple pizza dollars. I could either buy this watch or I can get 10 pineapple pizzas. This simple reframe through the lens of something that I love helps me realize whether buying that thing is worth giving up something that I know I will love. And of course, you don't have to use pineapple pizza dollars. You can use anything else you love, whether that's hot dog dollars, coffee dollars, or magic lamp dollars. Question 2, what's the true value of this? Warren Buffett once said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. Although he was referring to the stock market, it definitely applies here too. Basically, an item's value is what you get from it. How it makes you feel, what problems it helps solve, and the transformations that you experience. An item's price is just what you have to pay to get those things. And an item's true value is the difference between what you can get from it and the cost to acquire it. Like if a $5 iced coffee makes you the happiest person in the world, it makes you more productive and more social, and it reduces the stress for the rest of your day, chances are the true value that you get from that cup of coffee is way more than the price of the $5, meaning it's fine to get it. But the most important question I ask myself is, what is the absolute price. When I didn't have much money, I only bought the cheapest things because I thought I was saving money. Shoes from Payless and clothes from Kohl's. I thought, why spend $60 on jeans when I can get one for $15? But the problem is, everything always fell apart in a few months. Focusing on just the absolute price or the outright cost to buy something didn't account for the additional monetary cost and time needed to replace or repair these things. So what I do now is buy things based on cost per use, which saves me a lot of money and time. For example, I was obsessed with high quality coffee for years. Every day I would buy an iced coffee at a cafe because I couldn't make it taste as good at home. So I thought to myself, I could probably save a lot of money if I could make cafe quality coffee at home. Let's say an iced coffee outside costs $7 and I bought it every day from Monday to Friday. I could divide a $500 used Breville espresso machine to make coffee by 365, the number of days in a year, and the cost per use for that coffee machine is just $1.36. If I use it every day for 2 years, the cost per use is 68 cents. And I'm okay with spending 68 cents every time I make coffee. And that Breville machine has lasted for many, many years, so now the cost per use is probably pennies. But that leads me to something that you've got to start accepting. And it's that even if you're trying your absolute hardest to save money, sometimes you still feel like you're not doing enough. And that might be because you don't know how the 1% manage their wealth. Click here to find out how you can manage your money like the 1%, so you can start doing it immediately.